Hi everybody, Drea McDonald here. Today's episode is with John MacKenzie, also known as Mumbling Jack. He's a poet based in Charlottetown. He's published 3 collections of poetry so far and is everyone's favorite doorman at Baba's Lounge.
Art, I want you. Art, you make it pretty hard not to. And my heart is trying hard here to follow you, but I can't always tell if I ought to.
Hi John, thanks for coming out.
Hello, Andrea. Thank you for getting me out.
You know, we've known each other for a long time, but I don't know a lot about your younger selves or how you got into writing poetry. One of your book jackets said that you left PEI at 19 years old. I'm assuming you started writing earlier than that. What made you take off from PEI at that age? And why did you start writing poetry, do you think?
Well, I was writing some before then. I'd been dabbling with it for probably since my early teens. As to why I left the island, well, I had met a woman who was working here for the summer and
Followed her?
followed her.
Classic story. I also did a similar thing. It wasn't a woman and it wasn't a love interest, but it was a small group of people that I met during the summer here, and they were all heading out to Nelson, BC, and I was like, yeah, I'll go out there.
Sounds good.
Where did you follow this person to?
I followed her to the Yukon.
Wow, you were committed.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess I was, but then we weren't really. Either of us committed. So
As committed as you can be at 19.
Yeah. Or 50.
Yeah. Did you? What did you do in the Yukon?
I washed dishes in a restaurant, and for a while, and then I stacked lumber in a sawmill. Yeah, and drank too much whiskey and beer.
Yeah.
Well,
The North always seems so I feel like if you're going to write poetry, you should really go to the North.
I didn't actually write any poetry. I don't think while I was up there. I didn't write any poems that survived.
Yeah.
But there were images and lines that have survived from that time.
Mm-hmm.
But I was still very much in a learning, and I was going to say experimenting phase, but it's not experimenting in the sense that people often use when they talk about experimenting in arts and music.
Maybe more absorbing
and learning, not breaking new ground in any sense, in that experimental sense, not breaking new ground in the genres, but experimenting with how to write, how it was going to work for me.
Right. Yep. Interesting. Did you what happened after you went to the Yukon?
I came back to PEI, and not long after I came back to PEI, that's when I started to try and devote myself to writing, and to writing poetry specifically.
Why do you think you wanted to do that?
Well, I had always loved words and reading. Reading has been the great love of my life. I thought that I since I loved it so much, I probably should be able to do it. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose at that age, well, at that age, I did have illusions. I probably still have illusions, but not the same ones. I had, the illusions of greatness that all young people probably have when they take up something. Thankfully, those have not lasted, because I think the striving for results rather than process is not a way to success with the field that you're delving into. Um, learning the process, I feel, is much more rewarding and actually brings some kind of results rather than looking towards an end goal. Learning how something works.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. And also, like, focusing on the process means that you're doing it for you instead of for other people also. I feel like if you're concentrating on results, sometimes what you're concentrating on is what other people are going to think of those results, right?
Yes, you're more, yeah, it's a looking for, what do you say, validation, I guess, from outside rather than validation from the process.
Yeah. So I came across this great quote the other day. God is the name of the blanket we put over mystery to give it shape. Do you think that art is another way to give the mystery a shape or a form? Do you feel like you connect to any kind of spirituality or muse when you write poetry? Or is it more of a cerebral thing for you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the last part of that. The rest of it just sounds like mumbo jumbo to me. Yeah, like, I, um, yeah, I like that. I like that image. God is the blanket that we throw over the mystery. I find talk of God and spirituality to needlessly mystify. Needlessly mystify things. It's not. I don't. I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about creating or creativity. But I don't think that it's anything mystical. I, for me, it's quite a physical activity. I mean, the I haven't. I'm not a. I'm not an athlete. Um, but I have, like, when I was younger, I did play some pickup sports, and I do play quite a lot of pool these days. And the the which is also a process oriented thing. The process, there's a process that has to be followed to achieve to sink a ball. You have
Yeah,
to.
I get what you're saying. So it sounds like for you, like creating something is more of an exercise and less of like an inspirational thing.
It it is. Yeah, it's much more an exercise for me. I find that thinking of a muse or inspiration, um, those things more gave me an excuse not to write. because I wasn't feeling inspired, or I wasn't in touch with my muse, or I had writer's block, or whatever. Whereas if I just do it, then I do it. Right? It's this on the drive out here earlier. Like I when we were talking a little bit this, I said something about how do you hit a baseball? Like it's not you can't hit a baseball by thinking about it. I mean, thinking a little bit doesn't hurt, but in order to actually consistently make contact, one has to practice. One has to just keep doing it. And even if one is successful for a while, the practice can't stop because the muscle memory does start to go away. And I firmly believe that for me, and sure for all of humanity, it's like the act of making some form of art, whether it's writing music or making film or painting or sculpture, whatever. Like, yes, there's stuff that has to happen. You have to visualize something, certainly, but to have any chance of successfully rendering what you have envisioned takes constant application.
Yeah. You can't, you may get inspired by something that you can't explain, but you still have to do the work. The universe is not going to do the work for you. One idea I've been exploring lately is how the creative process, and by that I mean having an idea and following it through whatever process you use, it can be a lot like falling in love. You don't know where it's going. You don't know what it's going to look like when you get there, and it can be really hard, but you want to see where it goes, and you think that it's going to be worth it. Would you agree to that?
I probably would, yeah, because, exploration, you start it with exploration, and I'm pretty sure that curiosity has a lot to do with why and how we make stuff. Like the question of what if it was this, what if it was that, how does this work, how would that work? That's they may be for me the basic drivers of writing these days. And how would these fit together? It's because there's a sense in which I believe that, well, I say art is lies. Because it is.
Tell me more.
Well, a poem for me is not a true rendering of any one experience. It's more often the fitting together of small pieces of it, of experience from different times and places, and images and feelings from different times and places, fitting them together to make a whole that holds together, that has its own coherency. It's not anything that actually necessarily happened as a thing, rather as something that is true of how we feel, right?
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
it's like the the sense of rightness or trueness that and recognition that a piece of art can give to us doesn't come from the faithful rendering of one thing.
Yeah.
It's
It's the combination,
yeah,
the end result.
it's an artifice, right?
Yeah. So, for example, the lovely huge artwork by Becca Vio we were just looking at, like what she was thinking of when she was painting that doesn't really matter.
It doesn't.
Or, and I don't know what that was. And if I did know, it would probably be a lie because when I look at it, I see something completely different.
Yeah,
Is that kind of what you're?
kind of, but it's also
But it's more about, yeah, I think I know what you mean. You mean that all of the little bits that are going into the final product, none of them have, like, they all mean something a little bit different. And so the final result is a combination of all of these different things, and it becomes untrue or something when they're all together.
well, no, the untruth I think is that, well, yes, the untruth is that they were never one thing. They make one thing, but
Mm,
they were never one thing before.
okay.
They make a truth of their own. The untruth is that that truth is made up of things that weren't
Right.
happening together, hadn't happened together, weren't a part of each other. So you can have these ideas of something you want to say and build it out of other parts. You can have an idea about society and how it should, and I think this is art's place, how it should be and work together, and create a story or a song or a film that says how you think it should be or shouldn't be. But you're building that around the idea that you have of what society is, right? You're creating something that has that a story that can deeply affect people and that is important. Like, for instance, speaking of Ursula K. Le Guin's The Left Hand of Darkness, like the discussion of gender and gender fluidity in society and at a time she was writing at a time long before mainstream society had either any desire or any conception that it was that these were things that were going to have to be dealt with,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And yeah, so
Hmm.
so that's the sort of thing that I mean.
Gotcha. I noticed on your blog that you write a lot in English and in Spanish, and you've also tried your hand at translating other languages. Why? Why do you do these things?
Well, the brain has to keep working. The brain is a process as well.
It's another exercise for you.
It is. I mean, the well, for one thing, there's a possibility that I might have some fluidity in another language before I die, but the brain science, neurology, is like any other field, a field in constant change, but learning new things about about itself and about us. But the brain, it's been recently found out. I didn't know this when I started trying to learn Spanish, but people that are bilingual or multilingual, the brain keeps both languages active
Hmm.
in their brains at all time. They don't switch back and forth between languages. So both the vocabulary, the grammar, the syntax, all that is active at the same time, which means that there has to be more connections active in the brain. And brain imaging has showed that people that are bilingual, multilingual, people that become bilingual, in most cases develop more white matter in their brains. It's just and it's a way of futilely resisting age and decrepitude,
Right.
for one thing.
I will say it's also really interesting for the reader too to have both languages, like the same poem in both languages to experience.
Well, yeah. I'm not 100% sure that I'm willing to call the Spanish version's poems. It's might be somewhat arrogant. Well, yeah, it's hard to say because I'm nowhere near as fluent in Spanish as I would like to be. So it's hard for me to tell how effective they are as poems in Spanish. Once again, they're exercises in both in trying to learn another language and trying to learn and create better poems in English as well, because I don't believe that, there's been a trope for a long time that knowing another language makes you think differently. I don't believe that. I think that humans think the way humans do, no matter what fucking language they speak. There's once again that veers towards a mysticism that I find is more more debilitating than strengthening.
I know you've been a big music fan, and I'm wondering, how do you think music over the years has affected like the way that you write poetry?
It has. It definitely has. It's affected both the way I use imagery and the way I use rhythm in poetry. I once again I have to speak with some hesitation here because for as long as I've been listening to music, I'm still very weak on music. For me, my brain is still lyric first, right? Also, I have developed a greater appreciation, an ability to distinguish between the music that is playing as well. But it takes a certain amount of obsession and fanaticism to do something well. And with music itself, I never had that paired with it takes that fanaticism and obsession along with a drive and an intense curiosity to create. For the music part itself, I never had that. I only had that in connection with the lyrics I guess, and have come to a greater appreciation of the notes and how music works and moves.
Have you ever collaborated with a musician to write a song together, or has a singer ever used your poems in a song?
Yes, that has happened. I've never collaborated. I wouldn't classify it as collaboration because I view collaboration as having more simultaneity.
Mm.
It's more been that I've written something and someone has put music to it, which goes back to what I was saying. I would find it quite difficult to put words to music.
Yeah,
I think
because you start with words.
Yeah. Well, where for other people, the starting point is the music. It's just
Yeah, for me, often it's the melody.
the melody.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the words come, the words will fit into the melody and the rhythm that I've come up with. So, how long have you had your blog, Mumbling Jack?
I think it was 2013 I started that. And yeah, so that's a while now, but
Yeah.
I try to I don't always succeed in this, but I try to write and post something at least once a month.
Mm-hmm.
Just and that's once again going back to maintaining a practice, because this and going back again to what I was saying earlier about inspiration and writer's block. When I came to the realization eventually that the reason that I had no inspiration and that I had writer's block was because I wasn't writing, that I would go for long periods of time without doing it. And so I forgot how to do it.
Yep.
Right. So.
And the only way to get better at something too is to do it regularly and over and over and over again.
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, and the way not to lose it is to at least keep doing it a little.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I've definitely found that with my music since I kind of backed away from playing live and I wasn't playing regularly anymore. So I wasn't kind of forced to finish songs and make new songs and and get back in the studio and that sort of thing. So it definitely I needed to find my own way to regularly practice. I did eventually, but there's also so many other forms of art.
Yeah, there
to
are.
Try.
Now, can I ask you something about about practicing and about writing your music? Is there must be a mental space that you put yourself into in order to start? Is there anything that you physically do? Any habits that you have that help you get into the space to do that?
So it's a good question. There's really lately since I bought this house 4 years ago, it's the house. Really, I can be anywhere in this house as long as I'm alone. The solitude is the big thing for me. And even though for a long time I did have roommates because I couldn't afford to live on my own, and I was still creating. In those days, then I definitely had a little ritual of probably a glass of wine, probably a candle and my guitar, piece of paper and a pencil. And that was it. I would set the scene and then I would get into it. Now it's much easier because I'm alone a lot.
Right. So that's interesting because perhaps those are not, they're not just a beginning point for yourself. They're also sign points for others, like do not disturb. Maybe.
Perhaps. Maybe I should invite all my old roommates over here after you and we'll see. We'll see what it's been like living with me as a songwriter over the years. But yeah, that's a good point. Maybe if somebody all of a sudden smelled the incense going on in the in the bedroom, they knew to be quiet or something. But to be honest, I feel like these days what's going on all of the time is that it's always running around in my head.
Right.
Because while I do sit down a couple of times a week and play guitar or play piano, I'm not always writing music. But when I did the artist in residency program last fall in Surrey, I didn't plan anything to do there. I just walked in there with my guitar in an empty space all alone, and I sat down at the piano there and I started writing, and I wrote 4 songs in one day. It just came gushing out. So I feel like for me it's just always kind of going on, and then whenever I do sit down, usually it'll come out.
Right. So you unstop the dam.
Yeah.
You dredge the channel, and you're able to navigate the waters then, because interesting. Yeah, like for me, like there's nothing that I habitually do these days either. It used to be a coffee and a cigarette and a pen and a notebook. But these days it's more, it's there if I choose to do it. And sometimes I actively refuse to do it, because that's another characteristic of mine. Active refusal has been a part of me since I was probably born. Saying no is one of my, anyway. But yeah, and once again I relate it to doing other things like playing pool. Like I can focus. It's just time to focus, and I do it. And for me, the process often starts with it. Well, it is association. I think that's how creativity works. It's like we ask a question or we note something, and then we let that associate with something else in our brain, and then we just let our brain go to find what else it associates with, and then from those things try to draw it into a line, whether it's a pencil line or a line of, a phrase. And then as it builds on itself, there's a structure starts to appear. The association is still happening, but there's a clearer demarcation between what fits that structure and what doesn't in those associations.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting the sense that the way you think about making art is more about brain chemistry than inspiration.
Well,
or a combination.
Yeah, I like I say, I don't find it mystical.
Yeah.
It's no more mystical to me than a carpenter making a fine piece of furniture, right? It's about the attention to detail, getting these things to fit together, and deciding how much of a theme you want to show.
Nice. I do think that would be probably good news for people that have been maybe struggling with creating, and they think that they're not getting anywhere because they're not connected to the muse, or they're not, connected to the universe enough, or, they're not open enough to receive messages from, whatever. Right. But when in reality, you just have to sit down and do it.
Yeah. If you're breathing, you're connected to the goddamn universe.
Exactly. So you've had 3 books of poetry out. I know we chatted a little bit earlier about the possibility of more, and you said you had put poems into a file, and that's as far as that's gone. Certainly, I would love to read another collection, although I do follow your blog also and read what you post online, so maybe that'll happen someday.
Maybe. I'm not against it.
Mm-hmm. And people can find your books, I think, probably still locally. Any idea if the bookmark would still have some?
No, the bookmark
No.
doesn't.
Possibly online from the publishers.
And maybe like occasionally I see them in like the Bookman or the Book Emporium. Somebody found some at Dahlia Village once.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but yes, the best way to do is just Google search, I guess.
Right.
As I tell people occasionally, I'm sure that there's probably still some propping up a table somewhere, keeping it from being crooked. Useful in that way, at least.
Yeah, like the 2 boxes of CDs I still have upstairs in a closet. Yeah.
I think thinking is overrated. And I think thinking is overrated, and I think art and creativity are over fetishized. We, as we were talking about earlier, it's a matter of doing. Yes, sure, some people have more aptitude for some things than others, but that's true in every endeavor of life. It doesn't mean that it can't be done, though, that if one has I think if a person has the obsession and the drive to do something, they can do it. It just takes time. Nothing is immediate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, very little is immediate. Very little of any worth is immediate. But yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for getting me out of the damn house. I was going to say I don't socialize enough, but I think I do. It's just that enough is very little.
Yeah, for me too. Very, very little. Yeah.
Let's all get back to minimalism.
Amen, brother.
I wondered what would be the worth of my words in the world. If I write them and then recite them, are they worth being heard? Just because I like them, does that mean that I should mic them and see what might unfurl? And I think of the significance of my opinions here. Is it significant to be giving them? Does anybody care? Just because I'm into this, does that mean that I should live like it? And really, do I dare? Art, I want you. Art, you make it pretty hard not to. And my heart is trying hard here to follow you, but I can't always tell if I ought to. So I pondered the point of my art in this life. If I make it, will someone take it and think that it's genuine? Would they be glad that I did, 'cause they got something good out of it? Would they leave me and be any more inspired? And I question the outcome of the outpouring of myself. If I tell everyone my stories, would this keep me healthy and well? Would it give me purpose and to this world some sort of service? Is it worth it? How could I tell? follow you, but I can't always tell if I ought to. Art, I want you. Art, you make it pretty hard not to. And my heart is trying